Donald Trump is a racist, sexist, bigoted business fraud, rapist, traitor who bragged about sexual assault, mocked a disabled reporter, and incited an attack on our Capitol in order to stay in the office we booted him out of. But for the record, he's also just really weird. The Democrats say Trump is a traitor. MAGA. Snooze. Democrats say Trump is a rapist. MAGA. Meh. The Dems say Trump is a felon. MAGA. What's your point? Dems, Trump wants to be a dictator. MAGA. Whatever, losers. But when we say Trump is weird, MAGA. How dare you? How dare you? Have you no decency? That's just cruel. They're fine with every other word we've thrown at him. Every other word he deserves. Every other term he's earned. But not weird, because they can't define it. They don't understand it because they embody it. Not in the way they hurl it at those who aren't like them, though. They're weird in hateful, sad, cultish, sheepish, sycophantic ways. And they really don't like being called on it, which is why we won't be stopping anytime soon. My guest this week is Ron Filipkowski. He's back for, I think, the third time, editor-in-chief at MeidasTouch.com. Super prolific, of course, on all social media, but particularly on X, Twitter, as I call it. He's got some amazing threads right now, just calling out this weirdness that is so very triggering to MAGA and Trump world. So definitely check that out. Enjoy this conversation. It went a little long, but stay tuned. There's some fun stuff in the middle, I promise. Welcome back. I think, Ron, this might be the third time. I'm not sure. You were my favorite guest ever, but welcome back to the Are You Effing Kidding Me podcast. Ron Filipkowski. Hi, Ron.
Hello. How's it going? Always busy, huh?
Always busy. I mean, I was just telling you before we started recording that I took a couple of days and went down the shore, as we say in New Jersey, with the kids. And even though I was still online, I was pretty much kind of disconnected fully from what was going on. And I'm now trying to kind of like catch up. And my head is spinning. And I thought I was paying a little bit of attention. But let's just start off with, why is weird working? Because weird is working. This whole you're weird, he's weird, they're weird. It's very sticky and they don't like it at all.
Yeah, it's really so wild that I know a lot of the people that are in charge of the social media for the Harris campaign followed me, if not all of them. And so, when they settled on this strategy or embraced the strategy of going after Trump and Vance as being really weird, I was just so excited and so happy because I was like, are you kidding me? Because that's been my entire account for 4 years. Is because my whole thing is when I first started doing this and first switched parties, my whole thing was these people are all crazy. I've seen them up close and personal. They're all nuts. And my whole premise was if I can get just average, normal, moderate Americans to see who these people really are and what they think and what they believe, they'll reject them. So that's the whole premise of everything I've done every day for 4 years. So then to have the Harris campaign go, you know what, this is going to be our campaign strategy now. I'm I'm ready, man. Let's go. Giddy up,
You were so ready. You were like, I'm just going to do the top weirdest things. I happen to have them all.
Yeah.
All of them on video. All of them have been posted via tweet. I have it all for years and years and years. And I am laughing so hard because you posted them over the course of a day, right? Or a little more. And I'm in the replies on every one of them because of course I am, because I love your account. And I love that you've been doing this where you're pay attention to how effing weird these people are. So you were just all right, let me just show you how weird they are. Let me list all the ways.
And it's so funny because there's so much that I forgot, just mountains of materials you forget about. But it's as you're doom scrolling, you're these people are popping into my feed. Sidney Powell. Oh shit, I got 10 clips of her being weird. Tom Cotton. Oh yeah. And it's just some people I've forgotten about, but they pop into your feed and then you're oh, I got 25 clips on that person,
right.
So I'm like a kid in a candy store right now.
Yeah. And it's as sad as it is kind of fun to go back and be oh my God, that was crazy. Carrie Lake was vacuuming.
The other funny thing is Steve Chung, just about an hour ago, he's Trump's communication director, the very abrasive, obnoxious, large man. And he just posted that some 24, what he said is some 24-year-old intern with the Harris campaign came up with the weird idea.
Hmm.
And he doesn't know for sure, but he's just speculating. But you can really, really tell it is getting under their skin. It's
Oh yeah.
bothering them
Yeah.
because they're lashing out about it. They hate it. And that's why I'm like, well, I'm not, all I'm doing is posting clips of them in their own words talking. It's
Yes.
like if you want to defend it and say this person who's, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has this conspiracy that Hillary Clinton brought down JFK Jr.'s plane because he was a potential rival to her for the Senate seat in New York. If you
God.
don't think that that's weird, then, that's fine.
Right. Marge alone is a treasure trove of weird. I mean, she's the gazpacho police is weird. The thing that I keep thinking that is funny is people are like, well, you guys are, it's sort of like insulting to, weird is good and weird is different. And we've always sort of prided ourselves on being weird. And it seems like you're
Oh,
saying that it's bad. And it's like, well, no, actually, I think the irony here is that they've forever said that the things that make us different from them or make anybody different from them, anything about other people that was different from them was weird in a negative connotation. And now they're forced to be like Brian Kilmeade, like, I like the smell of my own farts. Am I weird? Like, I like being weird, and it's like now they're all of a sudden defending their own weirdness, like, oh, isn't that interesting? Because forever, if somebody dressed differently from you, or if they were
this
a
is the
drag
point.
queen, or somebody was transgender, you were like, they're weird, so weird, they're grooming your kids, etc. And now they're like, well, wait, weird's not bad. And I think that, first of all, that kind of gives us the high ground on all of it. But it also, again, puts them on their heels. But then it also does this other thing, which is that they don't get to shape the narrative. Like, they don't get to set the conversation because they're constantly playing defense on why are they calling us weird? We're not weird. Like Trump even said, I'm not weird. I'm normal. JD Vance is normal. So what Trump, I think, let me ask you this too. Do you think that Trump's like comments, at the Black Journalists Convention were intended to distract us from this whole weird narrative so that he could refocus our attention on his terms, even if they're bad, because no press, I mean, bad press is all press is good press to him?
No, I mean, I got in a spat with Hugo Lowell over this issue,
Oh,
and
really?
he blocked me for like 10 minutes, and then he
Really?
unblocked he blocked me and unblocked me.
Hmm. Is that
Yeah.
called a soft? That's called a soft block or something. I forget what it's called.
Well, he wanted to reply to me and then block me, I guess, so I couldn't reply to his reply.
Oh, what happened there? I didn't see this. Again, I was a little bit off
Look,
grid.
no, I mean, look, this is a thing that I've been bitching about for a long time about the media, which is that I keep saying we have to start taking Trump at his word. When
Mm-hmm.
he says something, blood of our country, dictator for a day, whatever you want to come up with, it's like the media just doesn't want to accept that this man has lost his marbles and he's
Yeah.
out of his mind and he's demented. And they don't report things like that. They don't report like, this is what Trump said. This seems very strange and odd. No, they're always looking for like the deeper meaning.
Yeah.
What did Trump really mean by this? And I watched this exercise go on with mainstream media of like, well, this is what I think he really meant. And this is
Yeah.
what, and so, that's what Hugo did because here's what's happening. Hugo's job is to cover the Trump campaign for The Guardian. That's his assignment. So
Mm-hmm.
he's full-time covers Trump. So in other words, he's in contact with their communications people, their spokespeople.
Mm.
And as Trump is having this completely disastrous performance, as it's happening, they're pumping out their propaganda, their spin to try and clean this up because they
Mm.
know it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And they're sending their spin to people like Hugo in text messages, DMs, whatever. And what did Hugo do? He put their spin out. And he
Mm-hmm.
just said, this is what's going on here. This is just 4D chess. Trump is trying to get back in the news cycle by saying all these outrageous, racist, crazy things to get Harris out of the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, that's Steve Chung's text to you.
Yeah.
Don't put Steve Chung's text to you out as your take as the reporter from The Guardian covering the presidential election.
Right.
because this is spin. This is nonsense. This is garbage. Trump's just psychotic. He's just racist. And he hates being asked real questions from real journalists, especially from women.
Yeah.
And then Black women.
Right.
So you add all those layers to it. And then you add that Trump was late. Then you add that most of the people in the audience didn't even want him to be invited in the first place. That's what was going on. It wasn't some 4D chess move by Trump to get Harris out of the newspapers.
Yeah, it's like they're giving his, his sociopathy.
You got it. You got it.
Holy moly, like strategic credence. You know what I mean? As though his lack of self-control is by design. I was just reading.
It's not.
Right. I don't remember who it was. I was just reading an article because it was like a week ago that Trump said that, less than a week ago, that he said you won't have to vote again. And you won't have to vote again if you vote for me. There you go. And that's another example. Right. They twisted themselves into fucking Bavarian pretzels to make it, oh, well, that's not what he meant. And you guys, and then it's a trap. It's a trap because what he does now is he engages you on what he actually meant. And he comes out and he tries to reframe it and respin it. And everyone's engaging with him doing that. He's a genius at it. It's like, no, no, he's not. He literally
says dumb shit.
Right.
And then you're cleaning it up for him. Let him clean it up. Let him dig a deeper hole, because here's what Trump does. And here's what the Trump campaign does. He'll say something crazy like that. And his campaign people are like, oh shit, the old man did it again. Like, what are we going to do? So they huddle. I know how these things go. They huddle and they're like, okay, how are we going to explain this? Well, let's say he meant. So then they get on and they watch CNN and it's like, oh, Jake Tapper just gave us our explanation. And then Trump comes out. Literally, this is what happens. I watch this all the time. Like some CNN reporter or ABC reporter will go, well, this is really what I think he was saying here. And then like an hour later, Trump tweets, this is really what I was saying here. And he's like echoing what the media's spin on it. So they're actually helping the Trump campaign by providing sane, rational explanations to his psychosis.
Yeah, right. And actually what he meant was, because he won't be seeking re-election, so you won't have to vote for him again. It's like, no, that's not what he said. We're still in 2024 dealing with don't take Trump literally. Still, we're taking the guy who said he wouldn't accept the results of an election he lost and then incited an insurrection in order to not accept the results of the election he lost. We're still not taking him at his word as if he's capable of nuance.
Right. Well, there's 2 points that I want to make about that statement that you just said, where we're not going to have an election again. So I will say, first of all, no one has ever asked Trump this question, this very simple question, which is, do you agree that you cannot run again? You'd think like, oh, well, that's too obvious of a question. Why would we ask that? And I just keep saying, just somebody try it. Because you know what? He will not say yes. He will say, this is what he will say. If somebody in the media ever does their fucking job and actually asks Trump this question,
and then follows up on it.
Do you agree that under the Constitution, you are not eligible to run again after this term if you win? A normal person would go, well, yes, of course. What are you talking about? This is what Trump will say. He will say, well, we'll have to look at that.
Yep.
We'll see what happens when we get there. There's a lot of people that have a lot of different ideas about that. And so we'll talk about that at that time. He will not give and that would be a international firestorm, that answer. So why doesn't the media ask the damn question? It's sort of like, why don't they ask him, how are you going to vote for the 6-week abortion ban to be lifted in Florida? How are you voting on the referendum? No one has ever asked him that question either. It's a basic question. No matter what answer he gives, it's going to cost him votes. Yeah. So why the fuck wouldn't the media ask that? Right. Yeah. So that's point number one. Point number two is, I will give you what I believe that he was trying to say. But again, I'm not going to bail his ass out, by putting this out publicly. But knowing Trump as I do, he was speaking to an evangelical group. And what Trump Trump knows, because what his people have told him, is that many of these evangelical activists never voted before Trump.
Mm.
And they only show up to vote for Trump. They're not real Republicans. And they don't vote in every election. They don't vote in midterms. There's a good chunk of these evangelicals that only show up for Trump. And I think that that's what he was saying. He was basically saying, look, I'm only running one more time. If you want to be generous, I'm only running one more time. You guys only really show up to vote for me anyway, so you won't really need to vote again. I just need you to show up for me one more time. If you really wanted to be generous, I think that's probably what he was saying.
I guess again, but the thing is, like,
But I don't know.
Right. But even if it was, I mean, I don't think that it's impossible to believe. Even what you were just talking about, if they were to ask him if he wouldn't run again. I mean, we know that he believes, well, he says that he was robbed of his, second term, et cetera, et cetera. Like, all bets are off. I personally am of a mind that if he were to get in office, it's not hyperbolic to assume that he would do something crazy, like do away with elections, because he doesn't believe, they're good for the country, or they're rife with corruption and rife with, cheating and all of the other things. So he's doing it for an official act for the good of the country. I mean, I'm not ruling anything out when it comes to
this is the guy who dug up some rando anonymous Chapman University law professor to write a memo for him to justify having the vice president overturn the election.
Right.
So who's to say he isn't going to come up with a John Eastman again to write a memo saying, oh, you know what? He really can run again. You guys are just misreading this in the Constitution. He didn't do two. That only applies to people who do 2 consecutive terms.
Yep. Right.
And he had one in between. So this doesn't apply to him.
Right. Well, you robbed him of one, so you owe him one. It's like a
And who's to say this Supreme Court won't agree?
Well, nobody, right? That's the thing. That's this like giant elephant in the room, is that whatever happens moving forward, you have to consider that, because I know that Biden has proposed, reforming the court, but like everyone knows that can't happen without particularly the Senate, but it certainly can't happen without Congress. So they're really great ideas, fantastic, wonderful, unicorn ideas. But it's just like saying, I would like a pony, and
it's basically like starting the conversation.
Exactly.
That's what those are.
Right. And it'd be great if, like, it was, it's like everyone's like, impeached Clarence Thomas. And it's like, sure, that sounds fantastic, but like, there's not a pathway for that. So with this Supreme Court, it feels like they're always sort of this thing that's just hanging out there in the universe. You're like, well, what if the Republicans, God forbid, because there's all this talk that Republican states with, red legislatures and red governors will be like, well, no, actually, we're not going to accept your results of the election. We have our own alternate slate of whatever, and then this is what we're going to go with. So we don't accept that you won our state. I mean, there's talk of that. Of course, Mike Johnson saying these things will be litigated as it pertains to the ballot. Those are probably empty threats, but who knows? Because the problem for me, one I've always had, is that if, for instance, it does get to be litigated, it has to be litigated, then ultimately it's going to land probably with that court. And with that court saying that a president can essentially do whatever they want and slap an official act sticker on it and then litigate what those things are later, I don't feel comfortable with any of that. Like, I don't know what does that look like come December, when we're still looking at Ohio like, hey guys, can you certify the results of the election? And they're like, well, we're going to take this to the courts. I don't know. All bets are off when it comes to that court.
Yeah, exactly right. And, it just popped in my head too. When he first said he wants to get retribution and revenge on his enemies at a rally.
Yeah.
And I remember that, and that created a huge firestorm. And then Hannity suggested to him a few days later, Hannity said, well, what you were really talking about was that your success in your next term will be your revenge.
Right.
And Trump was like, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And ever since then, Trump says that, Trump uses that line. So again, that's just yet another example of like, Trump really means it in an evil, malevolent way. Yep. But then the cooler heads always give him an out, like give him a suggestion. And, it's one thing for Hannity to do that. That's fine. But no, I don't want Hugo doing that from The Guardian, right. And I'm calling media out every time on that.
That's good. That's fantastic. I think you should. I mean, I think that we can't repeat the same mistakes that we've repeated in the past when it comes to him. And there's not only that they're, giving him more credit and benefit of the doubt than they need to, but they're also sort of like putting their thumbs on the scales of all of this stuff yet again and spinning these things that are very obvious on their face as just Trump not having any self-control. I mean, when he is malevolent, he is his most honest, as George Conway points out all the time. Like
Yep.
that's when he's really being truthful. So
That's right.
right, to give him loftier aspirations when he says I want to be a dictator on day one. It's like,
No,
no.
that's really insightful as somebody who watches, everything that Trump says, every speech is when he angers, that's when he tells the truth, when he's angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Every
what we
time.
and that's what we saw at the Black Journalist Convention as well.
Yep.
Was it wasn't Trump pretending. He was, first of all, you could just feel and I don't know what the hell he was doing with her water bottle, but you could just feel the contempt that he was feeling for that woman, for those women, but the one closest to him in particular.
Oh, yes.
Like, how dare she? Like, how dare she? Talk to me in this.
Talk to me.
Right.
Because first of all, he's not used to it.
Right.
He's used to everybody fawning, tripping all over him, including all the Fox and Newsmax hosts. I mean, you think about it, like how many interviews has he done in the last 3 years that was not with Fox or Newsmax or a friendly podcaster?
Mm-hmm.
He did the one Brett Baer interview, but even that was Fox, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't think of really one off the top of my head. I mean, the only thing he did was like the debate with Tapper, but that was all like total softball questions, no fact check.
Yeah, and he never answered any of the questions.
He answered none of the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that brings me to another question, actually, that's sort of a tangent from here is, do you think he's going to end up debating? Do you think I mean, I know
yes.
his ego's taking a hit right now.
This is also goes back to how Trump does things. You have to kind of know Trump to kind of see how this is playing out, this is what Trump does when he really doesn't want to do something, but he knows there could be backlash.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you a million examples, like abortion, his position on abortion. He took like months and months where he kept saying, I'm going to come out with my position.
Yeah.
And because rallies in different places, and he gauges people's reaction, whether it's press or his own base. And he's doing that right now on the debates. And so what he really does not want to debate again. I know that. And so when he puts out his initial, like, I'm not debating, she's not the nominee, I'm not debating. Here's the deal. If the Kamala Harris campaign just said, okay, fine, there's not going to be a debate, and moved on and didn't talk about it, then there would be no debate. Trump would not want one. Okay. He would be perfectly happy to let it go. However, the Harris campaign has done the opposite. At every speech, she's taunting him, and she's saying, don't be a chicken. I'm here. I'm ready to debate you. Let's go. So there's no way he's going to be able to let that go, right? He's going to have to, kicking and screaming, go back and say that. But what he'll do is he'll say, well, I never said I wasn't going to debate.
Right.
I just said I wanted to wait until she was officially the nominee. Right. So that's always the excuse that he'll give. But he's right now, he is gauging public reaction to, if I don't do this, what will be the fallout? And I just think as long as she keeps taunting him, he'll get back into this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because he's a narcissist, right? So like his ego can't really take the hit. And especially when it looks like he ran away and is afraid, which is what it really does look like. Because, she said, you said anytime, any place. And you said when I was the nominee. And as of Monday, she'll be the nominee. Like, she's secured enough delegates now that she's officially cleared that hurdle. Now he can't use that excuse. I mean, he's running out of excuses. He's running out of rope. He's running out of time.
It'll be, what the other excuse that he could use is the person that you just said who he hates, he had the hard time with on the panel.
Yeah.
Is a CBS. I mean, it's ABC reporter.
Yeah.
She's ABC reporter, and ABC's hosting the debate. So that could be his next excuse, which is your reporter treated me so badly at the National Association of Black Journalists event that I'm only going to do a debate with Harris if another network does it.
Which, you know what? Honestly, if I were her and I were their campaign, I mean, I would say, okay, let's talk about that. Like, you want to set those terms? Let's talk about that. Let's change some of the other terms that you'd agreed to, with Joe Biden, and let's talk about that. Because, I mean, to say no would be like, well, see, we tried and they said no. But I mean, ultimately, I think any scenario in which she gets an opportunity to answer substantively, but also to go at him the way she went at Mike Pence, like the viral, like, I'm speaking and all of that stuff. And that was Pence. Like, I think any opportunity, plus you have that split screen contrast, which we all know how infamously impactful that split screen is. You got the split screen of the orange old man and the youthful, woman who has no fucks left to give. That split screen is enough almost to really kind of make a huge impact on people watching. And I think he doesn't want that, but she should have it. And I love that she's going at him. I love the aggressive tone that they've taken with him, with calling him the criminal, with calling him the felon all the time. I've always begged for that. I've always begged. I said I believe that every sentence they ever uttered about the guy should start with the criminal, the convict, the felon, the adjudicated rapist. Like, I just feel like you just make it part of the vernacular when you're referring to him. And I have no problem with that.
And they try that, but Joe, that's just not him. And you could tell, like, it was very forced with him trying to go there. Yeah. I mean, he's a very collegial guy who spent 40 years in the Senate. He's used to getting along and working with the other side. So him going into attack mode was not really his style. And plus, when he does it, he comes off as angry.
Yeah.
And I always had a problem with that. The yelling and the angry and the finger pointing. That's not how you do it. You do it by mocking and laughing at the tyrant. Yep. And this is what Kamala, that's her style. And so, yes, take the golf moment, for example, which I thought was like the second he brought up, the question was, how can you assure based on your age that you're competent to be president for 4 more years? And he launched into a riff about his golf game, right? And the second he did that, I was like, this is so perfect, because Biden is just going to start laughing at him and mocking him as being ridiculous that he's talking about his golf game as his qualification for office and cheating at his own golf tournaments. And I thought, this is going to be perfect. And because the other reason why it's going to be perfect is because that clip is going to reach those low information voters that don't pay attention to politics, that watch sports and cooking shows and local news. And that golf clip is going to be the one clip everyone's going to see. Instead, what happened? Joe was arguing about his golf game and what his handicap was. And so, look, I follow golf Twitter and sports Twitter, and they were all just laughing at both of them instead of it would have been just the perfect moment. But here, let me ask you this. What would Harris do? I mean, Harris would just start laughing at him, which is perfect.
Right. Golf? You know, like golf? Like golf? Golf is the measure of what makes you a competent leader. Like golf, I'll tell you what.
You cheat at golf. That's your qualifications.
Yeah, exactly. You cheat. Yes, exactly. Like you pretend you beat, Masters champions at Mar-a-Lago. Like what? You pointed out Laura Loomer, whatever the fuck her name is, Laura Psycho, door handicapper, like that freaking weirdo, where she was talking about Trump on the golf course, and you're like, I'm watching the Olympics. Like none of these golfers could do this thing that she's saying he could do. It's like mythical status golf god.
He holed out twice in a row from think about it, 140 yards out in the fairway, that he holed it. He got it in the hole from the middle of the fairway twice on consecutive holes. And it's like, you could take Scottie Scheffler, the #1 player in the world, and drop 500 golf balls, and he might do it once if he's lucky. And she's saying that Trump's fat ass did it twice in a row.
Right.
That's like literally not possible. It's like 1 in 5 billion.
Yeah. And then he split the Red Sea.
Right.
Stop.
But you know why she posted that? Because
No.
she knows that he'll retweet her.
Ugh.
He'll retweet that.
Right, because it's a cult, and that's what they get. The sycophants get like all the attention. He loves that shit. They all love that shit. Like on our side, you got 100 billion people out there. Like, we love this, we love this. They don't shout people out because it's not about personality. It's not about an individual. It's about policy and platform and the candidate and all the other stuff. But I will say this one other thing about that golf thing. So my son's 14 and he's obviously online. He's on TikTok and all this stuff. And the day after the debate, I was there at the headquarters watching it. Like I now have a little post-traumatic stress from being there watching it. But I came home from Delaware with my tail between my legs and like a lot of shit to think about. And I was just trying to run through what I could remember because I went into some kind of like disconnect mode where I was like, oh, weird. Yeah. All sorts of therapy words for what happened to me.
I think we can all relate.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure a lot of people were like, what did I just do? What did I just see? What was that? Like, I woke up the next morning, like, I had the weirdest dream, but
maybe that didn't happen.
Yeah. And then I will see all my texts like, you need to move, Joe. You need to find a new country. You need to get out because it's over and you're gonna get killed. And I was like, dream. But my son, I'm driving home. I'm still crying. I'm like furious. I feel sick. Like I don't know what's happening. And my son calls me and he goes, Mom, were they really fighting about their golf game? And I was like, oh God.
That's what I mean. That was the moment. That was the moment. In every presidential debate, there's always that one moment that the fly on Pence's head or the Lloyd Benson, you're no John Kennedy, or Ronald Reagan joking about his, I don't consider you disqualified because of your youth and inexperience to Walter Mondale.
Right.
There's always that one moment. And that was the moment, man. And Joe Biden just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it.
I mean, I love the man. People know to a fault, but like watching it, it felt like somebody just lofted up this perfect like volleybal, and you're just like, "Yep,
exactly.
There it is." And then
exactly.
And
instead, he like caught it,
like nuke him. It's like, no, that's not how volleyball works. But well, so that brings me to this sort of last sort of overall question. Well, I have two. I guess we should touch on. Well, I'll park the first one, which is the overall question about the kind of whiplash of this moment that is, it's a mind fuck, but it's also like, wow, holy shit, what a difference. Like this, we have to kind of take stock of where we were, where we are, how quickly the party coalesced, including the diehards, right? Like me, who I can't speak for everyone, but we're like, okay, well, this is what we have to do now. And he said that we have to support her. So this is what we're going to do now. And we're going to go all in. And now we really have his legacy to protect and defend. So we have to work even harder. So there's just this sort of overarching moment. But I also wanted to get your take on Kyle Rittenhouse, which is this like side conversation.
Yeah, we could.
Because that's just so freaking funny.
Well, when all the whole Joe step down stuff happened immediately following that, I backed Joe. I mean, my position remained the same.
Yeah.
My position was always the same since 2022.
Yeah.
Which is I didn't want him to run.
Yep.
For a lot of reasons, but if that was his decision, I was behind him every step of the way, and I was not going to be somebody who was going to be out there calling for him to step aside because it's not my place. And I especially did not feel it was the place of former Republicans who are new to the Democratic Party, because my whole position is like, look, a lot of these people have a lot invested in Joe Biden, and they've spent their whole lives as Democrats, and they believe in the policies. See, that's the thing. Like, a lot of the Republicans that were calling for Biden to step aside, they might even be Democrats now, but they don't believe in the Democratic policies. They're only Democrats because they want to defeat Trump. And that's really like the only thing that they care about. And so they have no investment in Joe Biden. And they just want to beat Trump and whatever. So they'll discard. So whereas like for you would think of like, I love Joe Biden. I'm invested in, I believe in him. I like what he's done. So it's hard for you. Yeah. For them, it's not hard, because they don't have that investment. So it's easy for them to kick. So that's why I felt like, and watching the base and how the base reacted to those people, and I really came to the conclusion pretty quickly, like the only person that can unify everyone is Harris.
Yeah.
Because if they picked anyone else, if they went to this open convention or whatever, blood would be everywhere right now. Everybody would be at each other's throats. Instead, look at what happened.
Yeah.
Joe gets behind her, the Obamas, the Clintons, all the activists, because even some of us who feel like, oh, she might be too liberal for us or whatever, we put all those things aside. Those are small potatoes right now. We
Yeah.
put all those things aside. And I also don't, I also think she's growing into the position. I think she has matured a lot. I think she's, really over the last year she's made a lot of strides. So
Hmm.
no, I that's why I feel she's the perfect, and she's also the perfect person to trigger Trump and
Yeah.
MAGA. Because what I also said is, like, she's going to bring out the absolute worst in them, all the racism, all the misogyny, all the nasty stuff that they have just barely hidden below the surface of who they present to the public. It's
Mhm.
all going to come out, and that's going to help us too. And is that happening? Hell yeah, that's happening.
Yeah, she's a former prosecutor too. That doesn't hurt at all. It's amazing. It's amazing how triggered they are by her because of everything you just said. I mean, they're slut shaming her. Like they're
Yes.
slut shaming her. And
They
this
went
isn't
from she giggles too much, she slept her way to the top,
yeah.
she's DEI hire, she's really not black, she's a chameleon who changes her positions. Yeah, I mean, it's just like they're like punching and none of the punches are landing.
And in the meantime, their number one thing they were running on, which was always so hysterical to me because he's only 3 years younger, was he's now the old guy. He's
Yeah,
now everything they were running against their whole.
exactly. Which is why I have been like nonstop using old senile stuff, which I could never use before, right? Like, I can't call Trump old before because like they can just come back at me with, well, Biden's 3 years older.
Right?
But now it's like I'm liberated.
Yeah.
I'm liberated.
Take your bra off. We
It's
can
like you
attack him
just you
from
just gave me a huge weapon. Thank you.
and
Like, yeah, all the stuff that you said. Oh, like, somebody like even Elon Musk was like years ago was like, nobody who's 80 years old should be president. And I'm like,
right.
well, how come you're not saying this anymore?
Yeah. Oh, Elon. I don't know if you saw that news about the PAC today that he's starting because he's not giving him the
Yeah.
45 million a month. So instead, he's going to start a election interference PAC to fool people into thinking they're registered to vote, which is like, I'm sure that's bad. Like, I'm pretty sure that's a crime.
He has these huge following, but people don't realize it's mostly international. Like, his following is like probably 10% US.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, he has following all over the world, Asia, China,
Oh,
Europe. So yeah, when you look at his following, 140 million followers, well, like 30 million are bots, and
yeah.
70 million are people in Europe and Asia. And
Hmm.
he might have like 20 million US people, and those people are all like MAGA, nut jobs.
He's not influencing anybody
He's
to,
not.
that of any consequence.
The guy couldn't even win the Austin district attorney's race. He lives in Austin right now, so he went all in 2022 to try and defeat the district attorney in Austin,
Yeah.
Texas,
I
who he
didn't-
thought was soft on crime. So he backed some other guy who ended up losing by like 25 points. So if the richest man in the world can't even win the Austin, Texas district attorney race, like,
Right.
he's not gonna win the presidency for Trump.
Right. That's the thing too. Everybody was like, "Oh no, he bought Twitter to do this, and his intentions are to do that." And yeah, no, there's a lot of nefarious motivation behind what he's and Peter Thiel, what all of them are doing related to JD Vance, probably, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, but I don't really know just how much
Because he's
impact
too
you're gonna
weird.
have. Yeah,
He's too creepy. He's too weird. He's too far out there.
yeah,
And even his own like people, tech bro people are like, yeah, he's on drugs and he's nuts.
yeah. That ketamine stuff, like, ooh, like a lot, like
Well,
a
he
lot.
admits that he takes it regularly.
Yeah, yeah,
He says it
yeah,
helps him because he says that he's on the spectrum and he's autistic and that helps him.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Doesn't
Well,
seem to be helping.
no, no, and it doesn't certainly seem to be helping with the sales of his Cybertruck and etc. Which, but saw one yesterday. I was behind it. I'm like, how can they see out the back? There's no rear view window. I don't understand how they can see out the back of their car. It's like a
Maybe
big
like
armored
cameras or something.
shield,
I
I
don't know.
guess. But that's weird. I would be super claustrophobic. The damn thing is fucking ugly. I'm sorry. It looks like a stink bug. It's ugly. Like it's
Terrible. Yeah.
ugly. My
Yeah.
kids are obsessed with it because it's so ugly. They're like, I think it's great that Eddie made it such an ugly car and he doesn't care. I'm like, yeah, I guess.
No,
You
he thinks it's cool.
yeah, yeah.
So
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all. Okay, last question, I
so
promise.
Rittenhouse.
Rittenhouse. Okay, real quick. Again, me getting up to speed because Kyle Rittenhouse said he wasn't voting for Trump. He's gonna write in what Rand Paul? Is that what he said?
Not even Rand Paul. It's even worse than that. Ron Paul.
Ron
Like he couldn't even say like I'm endorsing Rand. I'm writing in Rand Paul. He's got to go to like Rand Paul's father,
Paul.
who's like 95 years
Oh my
old,
God.
who's completely senile. Like
Oh,
literally, like
yes.
he's like Jimmy Carter right now. You know, I
Mhm.
mean, he can't even talk. So that's who he's writing in. You know, it's just so funny because MAGA does this all the time. They build these people up and they make these people their heroes, and they know very little. Like we saw that at the RNC convention with the OnlyFans Amber Rose.
Yep.
It turns out she's like a Satanist OnlyFans. You know, what they were sold was like, oh, this is Kanye's ex-girlfriend and she's a rapper and she's supporting Trump. And that's basically what they knew. And
And
they're like,
she's a
oh,
white featured black woman.
black
Yeah.
woman rapper supporting
Yeah.
Trump.
Yeah.
She's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Then, you know, all these clips start coming out that she's like a Satan worshiper and like rabidly pro-choice and all this other stuff. And, you know, she's gotten naked on the internet and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just sort of like the same thing with Rittenhouse. It's like you made this kid a folk hero because he shot people. He went on a vigilante rampage to shoot people who he said were vandalizing property. Okay, he was found not guilty. That's fine. But and if you want to say like, oh, I think he was overcharged or he shouldn't have been prosecuted, that's one thing. But then to make him like a spokesperson for your movement, and we have an 18-year-old kid who's dumb as a rock. His IQ's got to be like 80. He's stupid. He's terrible speaker. He looks bad. Okay. He's not like a great looking guy, right? So, you know, why are you making him now like the man, like writing books? So this guy, first he said he was going to go to Arizona State to be a nurse. That never happened. Then he said he was going to go to Texas A&M to learn how to be a pilot for Federal Express. That never happened.
Mhm.
Then he came out with a video game. Nobody bought
Yeah,
that.
I forgot.
And he wrote a book. I mean, he's like, then he was going to sue Joe Biden.
Yep. We're not taking his
Because
calls.
Biden wouldn't return his phone call.
Yep.
I mean, at some point, like if you're a MAGA person, you got to be like, maybe this isn't the guy we want to get behind. Right?
Bob's big
But, you know,
point.
it's like Laura Loomer. All these people are like they're folk heroes, you know.
Right.
So of course we know this always ends badly
Mhm.
when they get behind these people, right? And they make these people stars, and it just bit him in the ass because you know Kyle's got this new job where he's a spokesman for this Texas gun rights group. He's found a sugar daddy down there in Texas.
Imagine making him a spokesperson for anything.
Who's like giving him some money. And so he's so like deep into guns. And of course, Trump right now is trying to like moderate on abortion, moderate on guns. He's backpedaling on everything,
Yeah,
trying to get the
everything is
moderates.
popular. Yeah.
And you know, where most of the gun people realize like Trump's just saying this is all bullshit. He doesn't mean it. Kyle apparently thinks Trump is serious, and you know, and so yeah, he was pissed off about Trump moderating his position on assault weapons or whatever it was, bump stocks, and came out and denounced him and endorsed Ron Paul. So the backlash has been the best part, which is all these MAGA people are just pissed and furious at him for doing this. So. But this is always how it ends with these people.
It is. It's the last cat turd. I mean, this is what you get when you make assholes your heroes. Like, this is what you get. But by the way, any due diligence that anybody ever could have done on Donald Trump would have realized that the fucking bump stock thing, which was fantastic, by the way, but also a reaction to the worst shooting in our country's history in Las Vegas, was under Donald Trump's administration. Like, that was back when you could actually appeal to like his better angels, which I don't even want to say. It was like he literally thought, I guess I have to support this thing. A whole bunch of people who like me got shot and killed at a country concert in Las Vegas. But that was under his administration. If Kyle, and he's also not even taking a far less pro-ban position now than he did then. Now
that
he's
is
like,
correct.
well, right. So it's like if Kyle didn't, well, obviously it's Kyle, but like all of a sudden now
He's
for him to be like, oh wait, he's not all in. By the way, according to Michael Cohen, you probably know this better than anybody. Trump fucking hates guns.
He doesn't believe in any of this stuff.
No.
Like abortion, like the pro-lifers like, he's not strictly pro-abortion. Trump's never been against abortion. Like what do you think? The same thing with guns. Trump hates fucking guns. He hates guns.
Right.
But he has to pretend that he's all in on these gun nuts.
Yeah. And then
and that almost came back to bite him, didn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Because he almost died from it.
Ironically, right? We could talk all day about that because it's just so weird. Because now it's like he got shot. They're saying he got shot in the face. The whole situation is bizarre. But it was with a rifle.
We could do a whole show on that.
Oh, we could do a whole show on that. But it with a weapon we've been trying to fucking ban, and they're like, that's the one that the kid used. It's like, what? And now they're not talking about that. They're not talking about the AR-15. Yeah. They're talking about this. Well, the Secret Service fucking up, which I mean, ostensibly, if this thing was,
which is really great, though. By the way, I mean, they're like every single day. I don't know if how aware you are of this, but like their media and everything, every single day, they're still obsessed with that shooting incident in the Secret Service, which is, I love it. I think it's just great. Let them spend all their time and energy on something at this point nobody cares about anymore. Like nobody cares.
No,
like he got a nick on his ear. You know, if he was shot in the arm and he had a big ass bandage, he tried that with the ear, but that wasn't going to fly for very long because there was nothing wrong with his ear.
Nope. So, Tampax.
At some point, someone's going to see that there's nothing wrong with your ear. But yeah, I mean, it's so important to Trump and all the MAGA people, for everyone in the country to believe that he was shot with a bullet. In other words, like, it's a big deal for them that wasn't a ricochet or wasn't a piece of glass. And I'm just like, why is that so important to you? Because they believe the narrative is like, he took a bullet for the country.
For democracy.
They want that narrative.
Yeah.
And they think that narrative is going to win the election. When, they always lose sight of the big picture of people vote for president because of what they're going to do for them over the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Whether Trump was nicked in the ear by glass or a bullet has no impact on that.
Mm-mm. No. But they thought, and I'll just close with this roundabout way, but like they thought, like you said, they thought that was the moment, but they weren't alone in that. That picture of fight with the American flag and the blood streak. And I mean, I got so many texts for not for just the debate, but after that, of people saying, well, that's it. My friends, my peers, Democrats saying that's it. The election's over. There's no way anybody can overcome.
I was mystified by that, to be honest with you. I never understood that at all. I mean, I'm like, I think had it been a Democrat who did that, an activist who was like an Antifa person, then I think he would have benefited a lot. But and that's why it's so important for them right now to try and prove that this kid was somehow leftist, and they're obsessed with trying to do that now.
Yeah.
And the guy leading the charge for that is like Andrew Torbo, who's the Gab CEO, is the one trying to prove that. So, but I think that maybe would have benefited them a little more to have that narrative of like the left tried to assassinate Trump.
Yeah.
But once it turned out that the kid was a Republican, if it was like a migrant, it was like a Venezuelan migrant that Biden let in the country or something. Yeah. Then I agree. It's over.
Yeah. But yeah, but right. But
it's a white Republican whose dad had had a Trump sign in his yard, you know,
armed with a weapon of
with an
war that
AR-15.
his dad
Yeah.
was able to purchase legally, like who
Yeah.
lived in basically like, you know, an amosexual like paradise, you know what I mean, like that was
Yep.
constantly inundated with guns. But now that they tried to blame Biden by like dragging the Secret Service, like they've tried every angle on this, and now they're saying it's a conspiracy to suppress information, Google searches on the internet when you Google like assassination attempts. Like, because I don't
As
think
usual, they
right.
overplayed their hand.
Completely. And
And they
this
blew
freaking
it.
Tampax
Yeah.
ear thing at the convention was just fucking laughable. How quickly they went. I mean, and his speech was just fucking unhinged. Like, I'm never going to talk about what happened to me, but it was a warm summer day, and you know, then I died and I resurrected. And
Because
like,
you know, seriously, the only time I got worried, I wasn't worried after the shot. The only time I got a little worried for half a second was like when he said, "I'm a changed man, and I've really reflected on this, and I'm going to be all about unity now." You know, he put that tweet out or whatever, that post on
yeah,
True Social,
yeah,
and I was just like, "Well, of course, my first reaction is Trump is always a bullshitter. There's no way."
yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm like, "But he is a good actor." And if
Mm,
he actually plays it this way and comes out and pretends like he's now this empathetic changed man and seen the light,
yeah.
that could be a real problem for us. But of course, that lasted 5 minutes.
It was hysterical because it actually could see it devolve from a thing in his RNC speech. Like you could literally track it. It was like, I'm a changed man. I'm humbled. I'm talking softly and slowly, and look at me. And then all of a sudden, it was like a little like a choo choo train. It was like, and I'm gonna amp up the crazy and the angry, and that wasn't enough that I was shot and wherever or wasn't shot. But like by the end of the thing, it was just like the fucking grievance tour, and it was just like, whoa.
And 5 minutes later, it's Kamala Harris isn't black, and
Yeah. Yeah.
she slept her way. She slept with Willie Brown to get where she is now.
Right.
That new tone was great, man.
Great new tone. Great new tone. Yeah, she's not really black. She turned black. She changed and became, I had no
She
idea
became
she was
black.
black. This woman who went to,
Well, because what he's arguing now,
college.
she's Jamaican, not black.
Right, right. With, I
That's
mean,
a new argument.
I,
I'm like, have you been to Jamaica? I've been to Jamaica.
but like,
People there look pretty black.
yeah, it's just birtherism all over again. And again, they're not adding any votes. No, there's nobody in some swing state who's like, oh, well, until I realized she used to be not black and just Indian, I was going to vote for Trump, but or for Harris. But it's like, no, this is just the same bullshit, and it's repackaged for this election. Which, just as a general thing, I will say this, and I will get your thoughts before we go. I do agree that what this has done, what Biden's support for her has done, but what her candidacy has done is it's reframed this election in a hopeful capacity that I really did not anticipate. And I've long said, as well as you, and you've long said that he should have not been the candidate. And I would always debate with you because I love the man very much. But you were largely right. I hate admitting when I'm wrong, but I was largely wrong. But I have come along. But I will say that I did not expect first the huge, like just coalition to be like instantaneously there. People I've been fighting with on Twitter for, you know, weeks since the debate, people on the far left, that all of a sudden I was like in DMs with them, like, okay, look, we got into fights. Let's do this thing now. You know, I'll never forgive some of those Republican never Trumpers because
I agree.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
you know, here's my thought on that, because I see where you're going, and I totally agree with what you're saying. Is that I really feel like there was this group of people who are out there who were saying that they didn't want either of them to run, right? And these are probably the people who are going to decide the election, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And they hate Trump. I mean, their feelings about both candidates. I'm talking about these because I heard this constantly from my people that I know who don't follow politics, which is Trump is crazy. He's a nut. We don't want him again. But Biden is too old and senile, and I don't think there's any way he can do 4 more years.
Yeah.
So I kept hearing that all the time. And they were just like, we don't want to vote for Trump, but you have to give us a healthy, age appropriate person who's competent and rational and normal and sane, and we'll vote for that person, whoever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that that's what it really came down to. It almost for those voters, it almost didn't matter who it was. To that slice of voters, they just wanted a normal, sane, rational, healthy person to run against Trump, and they were jump all over it.
Yeah.
And so you had those people, and then the base you have, which was happy with Kamala to begin with. They a lot of them wanted Kamala. So I think that it was the perfect confluence of events. And you just saw all these people who are out there who are like, they didn't want to defend Biden, and they didn't want to defend that Biden. They didn't want to ruin their own credibility in their mind by saying Biden is healthy, he's great, he's with it, he's ready to go, he can do 4 more. They didn't want to go out and say that publicly because they didn't believe it. But so those people, I think, are like liberated now. Like, I can defend the Democrat. You know, like, I'm comfortable doing that. So I think that has accounted for a lot of the energy and enthusiasm.
That, and that she does literally represent,
and she's good.
Yeah, she's good, and she's a Black Indian woman. I mean, she's you know, she does represent what America looks like in many ways. You know what I mean? And the future looks like that. And I think that that's also really exciting for people, especially young people who hopefully will vote. But like, I am very hopeful, and I like that hopeful energy, and I like having the Trump people back on their heels, and that's what this really does feel like right now.
And they're furious that she won't do an adversarial interview. And I think it's great, because I think that, like, I don't even want her to do it. I'm like, let's just stick with these scripted events. I'm totally fine with it. Like, no, voters don't care. Voters don't care if she does an interview with George Stephanopoulos. They don't care. So it's like, why would you? They're frustrated because they can't. They're all their gaff clipper people and all the campaign, their oppo people, they got nothing to work with right now. So it's like they had this massive treasure trove of Biden gaffes, and they had their playbook that they're going to film him shuffling to Air Force One and struggling with the stairs. And, you know, they had their game plan, and she's completely taken all the wind out of their sails. They're sitting around right now in their offices, like twiddling their thumbs going, like, we need some material here. Like, she's not giving us anything. And so they're screaming and yelling that she won't do interviews because they want stuff to clip, and they don't have anything.
No, they're so desperate for it. They
were clipping Biden this morning.
I was just going to say that they're clipping Biden and the whole hostage release thing, but also they're trying to clip her saying this shows you the power of diplomacy. And they're like, look, this is her unscripted. And it's like, yeah,
because that's all they had.
Right. And it's pathetic, but like,
it's brilliant. I would tell the Harris campaign, like, don't do these interviews. Screw it. Screw the mainstream press. The hell with them. Screw these gotcha interviews. Just keep doing your scripted events. We only got 3 months.
Yep. No? People love this shit. Keep pushing for the debate. Keep these huge events that really trigger them with, you know, rap artists. They're just like, oh, how can we take this campaign seriously? Meanwhile, they have the face tattoo guy and with the at the RNC, like, singing or rapping FJB. It's like, wait, how can you take us seriously? Because we had a hugely successful female Black rap artist singing on stage in Atlanta.
Don't forget Hulk Hogan.
Well, there's that too. I mean, come on. Like,
they brought in all the heavy hitters.
Sitting in, like,
what was funny was, like, some of the MAGA people were even like, damn, can we just not even, they're like, let's just do no celebrities, because they're like, these people are embarrassing us. Some of the MAGA people were like, man, when we roll out Kid Rock and Hulk Hogan, it just makes us look like we really can't get anybody.
And I mean, I'll be at the DNC.
Like, the smart play would be like, we're not going to do all the Hollywood celebrity stuff like the Democrats. We're sticking to serious stuff. Instead, they try and roll out these ass clowns, B-list celebrities,
raging former wrestlers ripping their shirts off. It's supposed to be like,
it's like, Hulk Hogan's still alive.
I honestly did not know that, but I'm just imagining some guy, like, sitting in Brussels, like, what the hell is wrong with America? This is real. Like, is this real? What's going on there? Well, oh my gosh. I always enjoyed talking to you so much that it's been an hour when I said I would keep it to 35. But yeah, well, that's how, I mean, I could talk to you all day long, as we know. Oh my gosh, Ron, Thank you so much. What are you working on? Obviously, you got the podcast going and everything's, you're still so prolific writing for Midas Touch. What's going on there? What else are you working on?
Yeah, cranking out the stories and stuff, just kind of juggling back and forth. Um, yeah, it's well, I'm really working on this Wierd campaign. That's my thing right now.
Awesome.
I know it really triggers them. So last night I did a Roger Stone special
Oh,
because Roger Stone posted on True Social that he wasn't weird and we couldn't show he was weird. So
Roger Stone?
yes. So
Wait.
I did 10 clips on Roger Stone's
Oh,
weirdness last night. So
I need to
that
look
was
at
pretty
that.
good.
Did you happen to find the picture of him wearing that one ball? Is it real? I mean, I don't know if it's real or if it was a Photoshop, but there's the one ball bikini bottom that I think he wore. Maybe it's a fake picture where you see his tattoo of Nixon, which is true, right? Like he actually has that back
Oh
tattoo.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't even post the Nixon tattoo because like everybody and their brother has posted that, so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was kind of boring. So I was trying to do some different things,
Okay.
and yeah, it was pretty interesting.
I
So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing, sticking with the weird and just
love it.
hammering away at Trump.
I love it.
Trying to get under their skin. I absolutely think we're going to win. I'm totally confident. I feel good about this.
Yeah.
I think Josh Shapiro is definitely going to be the pick. I don't know when you're going
You
to post this or air this, but he might. I mean, somebody's going to be the pick Monday, and I think it's probably going to be him.
you do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, every sign points to that. So,
Well,
I guess I have some concerns about. I'm first of all, I think he's a great pick,
fantastic
but
pick.
my question is, I've already seen some of the grumbling of the Arab Muslim left about that,
Oh no, I'm gonna do this again. All right.
and some of the far left. I mean, he's a moderate guy. He's a
Yeah.
middle of the road centrist Jewish white guy, and
Hmm.
so there are going to be some people that are not going to like that. And
No,
so, I hope but it's going to help shore up the Jewish vote, which Trump has been really making a play for. I
it's
mean,
an
you think
important
about it,
swing
like
state.
Trump was making a play for the black vote and the Jewish vote, and when Biden was running, and instead now you got a black person at the top of the ticket with a Jewish running mate. It's kind of like kicks the two legs out from under him of his stool.
Yeah.
So, but I do worry. I saw Mehdi Hassan was already out there clapping about if it was Josh, he was not going to be happy.
Oh,
And I'm just like, well, that's why actually when I tweeted the other day, like if you want to cause problems over this pick, you and divide us again, you can, or we can, or and help Donald Trump. If that's your choice, fine. But I hope that doesn't happen.
Uh, let me just real quick comment on that because what was driving me so crazy about how we got here and at several points was this like Veruca Salt cast of like, Willy Wonka that I was so frustrated by, which was like, but I want what I want.
Yeah.
What and it's like that's not how the world works, but that's certainly not how this works because no one's going to get everything they want in one person or in two. No one, right? So sometimes you have to put your big boy pants on. You have to just fucking suck it up and take some of the things you don't like with some of the things you really do and stopping some of the things you really, really, really hate that might end up with you like in a gulag or dead or whatever. And that was what was driving me nuts then. And I've said it been many, many, many times, very vociferously, and I still believe it. But we did grow up a little bit and we did stiffen our spines and accept our medicine. And now if that happened again, it would be maddening because look, none of those VP candidates are perfect. You could ask, gun control advocates about They're not in love with him about that, right? Or the border for that matter. You could ask, pro reproductive freedom advocates about Bashir. They're not in love with him. He's not perfect. Doesn't check every box in that regard. And Shapiro, by the way, not the biggest fan. I love the guy. Not the biggest fan of his position on school vouchers. So, like, you know what I mean? I don't know enough about Tim Walz other than I love him, the guy, but I'm sure that there's stuff about him I don't like. The thing is, part of being a friggin' grown up is just saying, okay, well, what's better for the whole, the collective? I'm not going to get my dream
And it's the
ticket.
VP.
Right.
It's
Right.
not the president.
Right. And who knows
And
if we get a primary
and
in
with
4 years? We
Kamala,
probably will.
with Kamala, you're not going to get someone who's more sympathetic to the plight of the Palestinians
Bingo.
than Kamala Harris.
And she came out about that before. Right.
And that's one of the reasons why Jewish voters are very uneasy about her.
Right.
Which is why Josh Shapiro will help in that regard.
Yeah.
So the last thing you want is like, people to get all worked up over Shapiro on that issue, because the president of the United States will be Kamala Harris, and she is very empathetic to the plight of the people in Gaza.
She more so.
What do you want?
Right. More so.
You want Donald Trump?
Biden never was. Right.
Who wants to give Benjamin Netanyahu a blank check to turn it into a parking lot so Kushner can build condos?
Day one.
That's the alternative.
And as a Lebanese person, by the way, he'll get also free reign to do whatever he wants to Hezbollah and whatever he wants to do to southern Lebanon. I mean, like, again, blank check. As an Arab, like, I don't want to see an administration that hands Bibi Netanyahu, who the Israeli people have to take care of on their own, but I don't want to see an administration that hands Bibi Netanyahu a blank check on any of this shit. And that's exactly what you get if you start splitting hairs over who the vice president
Trump is telling you that. He's telling you that.
Right. He's not hiding it.
He's not hiding it.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you want to quibble about? Like, he's, the running mate isn't strong enough on Gaza.
Did none of these people read Goldilocks? Right. Yeah. Did none of them read Goldilocks? I'm sorry.
I think it will. I mean, but again, like, when people like Mehdi come out and start chirping, it's like, dude, we really don't need that right now.
And and it's funny because he and I have we've battled quite a few times because, again, my father was born in Lebanon. He came here to this country when he was 17. Being Lebanese is very important to me. But I get upset, like you said, when they start making noise and trouble, not they as a ethnicity, but anybody in the left who starts splitting hairs over single issues, when we have one giant issue, which is to defeat Donald Trump. That is the number one driving issue right now to protect democracy. So we can argue about the rest of this stuff, and who would be perfect some other time. There's no guarantee she won't be primaried in 2028 anyway. So, I mean, we can all have these conversations down the road, but right now we need to beat Donald Trump. So yeah, I agree with you 1,000% on that. And I've long since held the same position, but we'll see, because I think I've heard that there's activity going on outside of Bashir's home and Shapiro's home, so I don't know what that means.
That's all. Yeah, that's all an act.
That's all spin. Well,
yeah.
I mean,
they all canceled their events for no.
I know.
It's gonna be Josh. I mean, the announcements in Philly.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, and Pennsylvania is a
huge
50-50 right now.
Very big state. Yeah.
Bashir. I love Bashir. Bashir only helps us lose by less in southern states. In other words, like, instead of losing by 20 in Alabama, with Bashir, we'll lose by 15. So, what does that do for us?
But I mean, I could see him swinging some parts of Ohio.
He will help in certain areas, Ohio, but we're going to lose Ohio.
I mean, we're going to lose that.
Ohio, I don't know about that. I think so. I think Ohio's like Florida now.
But, I don't know. But we'll see. I will see, because J.D. Vance is so fucking underwater in that state. Like, I don't know.
I think Kamala feels like she's going to win Michigan and Wisconsin now for sure. And Minnesota.
Nevada's in play again. Arizona's in play again.
And it's all going to come down to like Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania.
So VPs don't swing much of this shit anyway, but
Josh in Pennsylvania, he just won his governor race by 20 points.
He's so popular.
And he's got the political machine in place.
Yeah.
So that's what I think they're banking on. If Josh can deliver Pennsylvania, that's all we need him to do.
Yeah, and he's a hell of an orator, and he's a great debater, and he's
By the way, let me just make a prediction to you right now about him.
Okay.
What is going to be the biggest MAGA attack on Josh Shapiro? Well, there's a couple. There's two, but just like the influencer, because the campaign, they're going to go after a sexual assault case that he settled when he was attorney general that involved one of his friends or deputies or something.
I don't know about it.
And that's their big issue with him that they're loading up to go after him over. But like the MAGA influencer type on Twitter, like, what do you think that I know the number one thing that they're going to attack him on? What do you think it is?
I don't know. I can
tell you.
Okay, tell me.
It has to do with a 5 and a 6.
What?
His height. His height.
I was gonna say he's short. I was gonna say that he's short.
He's 5'6". So yeah, you're gonna hear, just like with Kamala, you know, she's not black and all. You're gonna hear short stuff nonstop online. It's gonna be all over height things.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Because that's what they do.
look what he's done with that 5'6" of body of his. I mean, he fucking
Yeah, let them do it.
rebuilt a collapsed bridge in like 14 seconds in I-95. That
And
was
then
like
we'll start a
nobody
short guys for Harris pack.
We'll have a Zoom.
I'm not short, so
No.
but I mean, you know, we'll get one going.
And this is New Jersey, so we're short stock here. Our men are, I love them, God love them, but they're not, the tallest stock in the world. We're not Midwestern men here in New Jersey. No offense to everybody in New Jersey. Look, I love my Italian New Jersey boys. Okay, I just do. But I mean, I could just see a short guys for Harris Zoom, and it's like when I was in 5th grade, I did the talent show, and we did the thing where the girls sat behind me and they put their hands were my feet and whatever, and it was like short people got no reason. Short people. I don't know. I just thought of that, but it would be funny.
But yeah, as usual, their bigotry and their obnoxiousness is going to come back to bite them because there's a lot of short people out there.
Well, there are a lot of short people out there, and there are not a lot of orange people out there, and there are not a lot of guys who have 3 names who wear black eyeliner. So, JD Vance,
you know what though? It's nice eyeliner.
It is. It's like a smoky.
Yeah, he does a nice job.
He does. Sarah Sanders should take note.
He's better at makeup than Trump. Gotta give him that, right?
The uber masculine ticket that is the cake makeup orange man with the 16-step comb over and the squishy eyelinered guy from the big money bros. Like, come on, guys, really.
Alpha males.
Alpha male, yeah. Well, I guess we'll keep our ears and eyes out for who it is that will be the VP pick. I'm still not sure it's not Bashir, but we'll see. Ron knows everything. He's usually right about everything. He wasn't right about Stefanik, but then again, nobody expected Trump to pick someone as horrible for the ticket as Vance, and sure enough, he did. That was an ego pick, probably, right?
I thought it was Stefanik based on what made the most sense to me for the Trump campaign.
Right,
but there was the fatal flaw in my analysis.
Exactly,
which is. I approached it rationally. And, Anthony, co-host my podcast, he was like, there's no way he's taking a woman. Like, he is taking a white guy. And I'm like, no, he's not going to take a white guy. Like, he really has to take a woman this time, or a black guy.
Moderate on abortion.
And he's like, he will take a white guy. And he was right.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
Look, if his analysis was Trump is a racist, misogynist prick, my analysis was like, here's what Trump needs to do to be successful. As it turns out, his criteria was the best one to use.
Who knew this wasn't 4D chess?
No, I was doing the 4D chess thing with Trump, and he just went to that primal, racism, and he was right. Yeah.
Just take all logic and throw it out the window, and just take your brain out of your cranium and throw it away. That's really what you get. And then put all the hate and misogyny in there, and then that's what you get, Donald Trump. Well, Ron, thank you so much, as always, for joining me for an incredible conversation. The thing that's the best about having you on is that we laugh, because you have to laugh at some of this craziness. You have to. Yeah.
Or you'd cry.
Or you'd cry and crawl up into a ball and rock yourself to sleep sometimes. But we have hope now. We have hope. And we have Joe Biden's legacy. I feel very beholden to protecting and defending Joe Biden's legacy, because he didn't do all of this for nothing.
Look, I think he will go down as I said this the other day to the Midas guys. I said, I can't think of a one-term president who accomplished more. Like, I'm going way. I'm a historian. I've studied all the presidents, read all their biographies. You can't name one.
No.
I mean, H.W. Bush. No, I mean,
no.
Lyndon Johnson. But Lyndon Johnson had a term and a half.
Yeah, right.
The Kennedy assassination. So, no, I mean, Truman, same thing, term and a half. I can't think of anybody. I mean, Harry Truman would be the only argument, but he again had 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if Trump is defeated, then Joe Biden will be in the pantheon of Democratic presidents.
Essentially
top
beating
5.
Right. Essentially,
he's up there with. Twice. He'll be up there with FDR, with Jefferson, with Kennedy, he'll be right. He'll be Obama. I think you could make the case he was better. He's better than Obama.
I think a lot of people could make that case, and no lack of love for Barack Obama, but in terms of pound for pound,
Substance,
yeah, and
policy,
infrastructure bill, like the bipartisan shit getting passed.
Even Barack was not that ambitious.
Right. And he did it with this Congress, with this government, like with this kind of divisiveness that we see in this country right now. And just the cherry on top, the chef's kiss, is that I would hazard to guess that there is not another politician or elected official that I can come up with off the top of my head who would say, yes, I will let go of my hold on the most impactful office arguably in the world. I'll let go of that for the greater good. I'll step aside. I'll risk my own legacy to pass the torch now. Like
no one has done it. The only person who ever did it was Lyndon Johnson, and
right.
he
lost. They lost.
He was on his he was on his last legs. He died right after the presidency. He was in extremely poor health.
Yeah.
The Vietnam War is raging, and he wanted out. And so he himself wanted, no one was pushing him. He wanted out. So, but he wanted out because he had enough, and he knew that Vietnam wasn't getting any better, and he just wanted to get the hell out of there. So that's the only president that you can think of who voluntarily stepped aside after one term. That's the only one. There's nobody else.
And it would be, they're all, look, you don't go into politics because you don't have a little bit of competitive sort of ego in you, right? Like he still thinks, and rightfully so, that he could have won. And he had a lot to finish personally, and he has a lot more to do. But like, to check that ego, and then to also say like, all right, well, I'm going to use what influence I have right now to throw my weight behind the right person. It's huge. And it also healed the nation in many ways because he did that, and because it gave us less of an opportunity.
And the other thing is this is why they wanted him to resign so bad, is because it frees up Kamala. Kamala can basically run as the incumbent without having to do the work.
Right.
Because he's running the country and doing the hostage negotiations kind of shit like that.
Yeah.
And dealing with Israel, trying to wind that conflict down.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't have to worry about any of that.
Right.
So it's like,
genius.
That was George H.W. Bush's biggest complaint in 1992, was there was so much shit going on that he had to deal with, from the SNL crisis to Iraq to everything else, that he didn't have time to campaign. And that was his strategy, which is to kind of say like, look, I'm running the country. I don't have time for all that campaign shit. And obviously it didn't work.
No.
But Kamala is like free to kind of run as the incumbent, but not have to run the country.
Yeah. And the guy running the country
because
has done an
Joe.
Incredible job, and is continuing.
Yeah.
Like, no one has ever said like, oh, there was these indications that he couldn't do the job because of this policy. No one's ever said that. Like there's been no legitimate argument that his policies have been indicative of him losing his mind. Like that's not the thing. So he's still competently steering the country.
Their argument is like, well, if he's saying he's not fit to run, then he has to step down now, which is no. What he's saying is, I'm conceding that I might not be able to do 4 more years. I'm fine now.
Yeah.
But I'm conceding that 4 years from now, I might not be fine. And that's the counter argument.
Yeah. And to your point about Bush Sr., that actually he says, I can focus on steering this ship right now very, very well, but I don't want to try to do that while trying to campaign at the same time.
Right. It's too much. That's one of the reasons why I didn't want him to run, because I didn't think he could either.
Yeah, well, I drank that. I love me. I mean, I love the man. I love the man very much.
Look, it's the hell of a. It's one thing. It's like people say like, oh well, my dad's 80, sharp as a tack. Well, and then my counter to that always was, does he have the hardest job in the world?
Yeah.
Does your grandfather have the hardest job in the world?
Right.
Well, no, he's retired sitting on his recliner.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't really care that he's sharp as a tack then.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and this also
there's
helps
more
us
to it
the
than
argument.
that.
Right. And it makes us helps us make the
Yeah.
argument for why Trump, one of the many reasons why Trump is completely not suited for the job. But just he's old, and he's also sliding into
despite his 22 golf club champion.
Right. And despite all of the NFTs that show him riding a cowboy, I mean, right, not a cowboy, a cow in or a horse or whatever he's riding in space, despite all of those accurate representations of how virile he is, he's actually a 78-year-old man who drags one of his legs all the time and wears lifts in his shoes and a girdle and a diaper and everything else under the sun. Yeah. And he's
Whose
just
wife is MIA.
my God,
Yeah.
really fast, really fast. I missed it. I just saw it, the interview where he answers the question about what her reaction was when he got shot at, and he would like totally lies, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Well, once
He was
and once
devastated. Look,
once people started talking again, what?
look, there were a lot of Democrats that were rooting for the shooter, and some of them have lost their jobs, because of it.
Yeah,
But Melania was right with them.
yeah.
She was ready to cash out that prenup. She was like, she was already on the phone with her lawyer. Like,
Yeah.
is this it?
Who gives a fuck about the the shootings and the ears? I don't care. Is he dead? That's what I want to
Give
know.
me my money.
Yes, he's not
Yeah.
dead. Okay, well,
Look, they haven't been together for 4 years. They don't sleep together. They're not together.
they weren't
That's
even
just the
sleeping
bottom
in the
line.
same
They're
bed
not
when he
together.
was stooping. When he was stooping
Yeah.
Stormy, they weren't even sleeping in the same bed. When she was just had Baron. Yeah.
So
No.
it's like, it's just such a joke. Number one, that they're pretending that they are, and number two, that nobody in the media asks any questions about this situation
I mean,
except
meanwhile,
me.
right? You got Doug Emhoff out there literally like in
It's
Kamala
like,
merch
does it
every
matter
day,
that
all day
they're
long.
like pretending to be married? Does anybody care about that?
No, because it's fictional Trump, and fictional Trump is a family man, and fictional Trump is devout, and fictional Trump is, he's loyal and faithful, and it's just like, come on, media, stop. And then if you're going to ask him the damn questions, ask a
Because
real follow-up,
like
please.
if Trump had just came out and said, look, we're separated, we've kind of gone our separate ways, and she's got her life and I've got life, I don't think anybody would care.
Nobody would give a shit.
But see, he can't do that. He's got to always project this image that everything is perfect.
Yeah. Right. Right. And it's just a fiction. It's all a fiction. Anybody with, a single semi-firing synapse would be like, that, no. It's like he thinks that his face paint makes him look tan. It's like, no, you look orange. Stop it. All right. Well, Ron, I thank you 4 times. Everybody who's watching and listening to this is like, Joe, you're about as good as wrapping these things up as Donald Trump is in closing. But I've been sort of off the grid for
There
a
you
week,
go.
and this was very much necessary.
Bonus content.
Bonus content. This is like after dark. It's Ron and Joe gone wild.
Hopefully you didn't lose all your people.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'll just
You have like 3 people left watching the end of your
fast forward to the middle where I take off my top, guys, or rewind to the middle, or whatever you need to do, because that's the best part. I promise. You're going to want to see that, so you have to listen to the whole
I
thing.
covered my eyes.
Well, you might not be the only one. Okay. Well, with that said, this concludes, I know, much longer than Trump lasted with Stormy. This concludes my this episode of the Are You Effing Kidding Me podcast, my interview with Ron Filipkowski. Again, thank you, Ron. Everybody, please check this out. It'll be out on Saturday, wherever you get your pods. And next week we have Jasmine Crockett on the podcast.
So wow.
So I am so excited.
I'm the warm-up act for Jasmine.
I can't think of a better warm-up act in all
That's
the planet.
big.
You don't need to be anybody's warm-up act, though, but she is awesome, and I'm very excited for that. So thank you again, Ron. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and listening and watching and all of the things. And let's see who the VP pick is. Can't wait. Thanks, Ron.
Okay, you got it.